Okay, Mr. Chair, we're ready when you.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 a.m. This is the PTRC 4-2024. It's Monday, April 8th, 2024 video conference. I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wurrung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the First Credit First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with Indigenous people, past and present, and promoting wise stewardship on the lands in which we live. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I see none. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I see a mover, Councillor Ditavitas, and we have a seconder of Bob. So I'll call a question. All those in favor? Oppose? Okay. Adopt the minutes from March 4th, 2024. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Well, I got Bob and a seconder. I don't see the hands anywhere. There we go. Councillor Ditavitas. Thanks, Mike. All right. So all those in favor? Oppose?
I can't hear you.
You can't. We can hear you though, Ken.
Give
a minute. I'll chat to him to let him know we can hear him. Okay. So correspondence, 6.1 CL-C 14-2024, a motion regarding splash pad at Beaver Dams Park. So at its council meeting on March 19th, 2024, council passed the Parks and Trail Recreation Advisory Committee motion regarding splash pad at Beaver Dams Park with the following amendment. That staff prepare a report with respect to condition of current splash pads and possible locations for additional installations. Item 6.2, CLK-C 2024, filing committee vacancies. At its council meeting on March 19th, 2024, council passed the resolution to reduce the Parks and Trail Recreational Advisory Committee's membership by 1 member. So we do have our committee business. We have 3 items. So first we have item 7.1, which is the future use of James White Arena. Jeff can provide an overview and answer any questions.
We want to go in there. This place is creepy, yeah.
Can we have everyone just maybe mute our microphones if we're not speaking? I'll call on Mr. Holman to provide an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You had asked a couple of months ago when we were talking about the future use of James White Arena, the committee asked for the opportunity to review the terms of reference before they went out, and would appreciate your comments on the document that you have in front of you tonight. If you would like me to kind of step you through it, is that the easiest way, or would you rather me just answer questions?
I'm going to call on Justin. I don't have a document in front of me, Justin.
It should have been in everyone's agenda package. If you scroll through it, everyone.
I have a different agenda package. Just see here.
I'm gonna check the emails and make sure it was in there as well. I'll double check.
Sorry, I'm just
make sure. I think it's in the meeting invite, but let me just double check. Yes, it should be in the meeting invite that I sent everyone, the agenda package.
Okay, yeah, the scripted one doesn't have the,
No, it won't be in the scripted one. It'll be in the full
all
one.
right.
Yeah, sorry. Check the meeting invite with the Zoom link and everything else that I sent.
Yeah, so maybe Jeff, can you give us an overview in case any of us that haven't had an opportunity to read it, or maybe have just had missed that portion of the email?
Sure. So the document is it's a little bit lengthy, but what we're trying to do is encourage as many user groups that have interest in using this facility to step forward, and we'll see how we can accommodate them. So the first page is really just a bit of background. It talks about where we are with this property, and that the city is also working on a request for proposals for a long-term plan for this property, which will include a number of recreational uses, but also perhaps some opportunities for some other initiatives, such as affordable housing and other types of uses. The document starts with introduction. The second one goes into background information. And because we could potentially end up with a tenant who wants to come in and make some leasehold improvements, I provided quite a bit of background information about the structural integrity and some of the history of what we know about the building and some of the previous recommendations, so that anybody stepping into this comes into it with their eyes wide open. And you'll see as you get to the bottom of the document in the appendices, there's a number of links that take you to those documents. What we're proposing to do is, once you've had a chance to have a look at it and provide some comments, hopefully by next Monday, we can roll this out, and the process will include about 2 weeks or 3 weeks of opportunity for people to have a look at this and then make their submissions. During that period of time, we hope to include a 2 to 3 hour window for people to come in and have a look at the facility, maybe ask some questions about the space, and so on and so forth. We provided what we believe are current dry floor space rental rates, but some groups might find them too expensive. Some groups may want to incorporate the use of this space into some type of leasehold or lease payment. And then the evaluation process, which is where we need to get your feedback, Mr. Chair, is what criteria should we be using to evaluate these submissions, recognizing that some may want to use the space exclusively. And what does that mean in terms of, although it might be able to help us on the financial side of the equation, perhaps it might exclude some of the groups who might be interested from using it. So we've set up 5 different criteria that we're going to kind of evaluate each submission on. The first being any alignment with the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan, because that's kind of our guiding document. The next we're interested to know is what percentage of the users are actually Thorold residents, recognizing that it is the Thorold taxpayer that is paying to operate or not operate, in that case, this facility. The third criteria we're suggesting is what reliance will this user group have on municipal staff support? So does this mean that that city staff would be required for coming in and cleaning things up, or marketing, or promotion of the user group's operations? Because there's a cost associated with that as well. The fourth criteria is the organizational structure. Are we looking at a group that might be there for profit-making business, Is this a nonprofit organization? And what is the depth of the organizational structure so that we can understand whether this is just a group that maybe is a bit of a fly-by-night, or whether it's somebody that has been around for some time and has an established structure to how they operate. And then finally, we thought it would be important to look at the compatibility of how they want to use this space with other existing city-run or sponsored programs. So if we're subsidizing, or if the city is running other programs, it doesn't make sense to well, at least it makes sense to understand whether we are creating competition against ourselves or affecting another user group by working with a new proposal. So I know they're kind of spread out a little bit and maybe not very well explained. But I hope you understand what we're trying to achieve here, which is let's find a place find a group or groups that can come in and use the space that doesn't require a lot of capital investment by the city or minimal operating expenses, so that we can offer programming that currently isn't available and help us find an interim use of this space so we don't have to mothball it and lock it up. The submissions will be provided by the deadline on the form, which we call Appendix E, and the link isn't there yet, but we've attached the form starting at page 9. And it goes through a series of questions, which hopefully we'll be able to use to quantify the interest and the commitment to doing something serious with this facility. So that's the document we have in front of you. And I know for those that haven't had the opportunity to really comb through it, we would hope you'd take as much time as you need tonight and possibly even during the course of the week to provide your comments. There's some spelling mistakes and some numbers and dates that need to be added to the document, so it's still very much a draft. But I wanted to get it in front of you tonight so that we could get your thoughts. Happy to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. I'll leave it open to the floor here if anyone has any questions. Yes, Joe.
Excuse me. Okay, the time frame you were talking about there, you're hoping to get it out. Now, I was going through some of it as you were mentioning the time frame there. You're hoping to get it out in the next few weeks, or you're hoping to get submissions within the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Thanks, Joe. Through you, Mr. Chair, the objective really is to try and get it out as soon as possible. We've had a couple of groups kicking the tires, Joe, and they're really anxious to submit something that we can kind of make a decision on, or they'll move on to other locations. So the timeline, I think, is specified there. We hope to roll it out next Monday with the idea of closing the submissions by May 10th so that we can bring a report to council on May 28th.
Okay. Okay, that clarifies it for me. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Yes, Councillor Device.
Oh, thank you. Jeff, that's good news. The arena can be ran for another 10 years. Is that true?
I'm sorry, Council, I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, it says that we can operate the arena for another 10 years.
Well, some of the reports are dated. So the ones that suggest 10 years are probably ones that were prepared in the early, like 2013. I think we're looking at a 5-year window here. It's going to take us a bit of time, I think, to understand how we want to use this property in a more permanent way. It's going to involve some consultants. We're going to have to look at property issues, parking, and a number of other factors. So it doesn't make sense to wait around, until we make that decision. And if the window is too small, then you won't find groups coming in wanting to make any leasehold improvements. They need to get some return on their investment, right? So I think we're suggesting the window to be about 5 years for this. I mean, if it's successful, then I'm sure that we can find some way, if we needed to, extend the terms of the agreement a year or two. But ultimately, I think that's probably our window of opportunity, which is between now and say, the 2028, 2029.
Well, that's good because the people that were speaking with me earlier, they were concerned the window was too short. So 5 to 8 years would be a lot better for them, better for anybody to invest some money into that arena. So that's good news.
Is that it, Mike? Have any other questions?
Yep.
All right, Peter. Open to you.
Just for some clarity through you, Mr. Chair, to just the clarification from my part, some of the terms, interim use, I'm not sure if we have a, number one, we just talked a little bit about maybe 5 years, but it just says, long term. I don't know really what that means, long term. I don't know what the term interim use means. And you also say 2027. So with whoever expresses interest, would they be delayed until 2027 before they can get into the building? So those are the 3 questions, like just a little bit more clarity if possible around long-term, interim, and 2027.
So through Mr. Chair, long-term is really hard to define at the moment. I know that it'll be longer than 3 years, but probably not longer than 10 years. And it really depends on how quickly we're able to come to some conclusion about what the ultimate end use is going to be for that property. But I think if we are able to structure a lease that's, that's extendable based on mutual agreement, we'll be able to keep the space occupied. And as you can appreciate, it's a lot cheaper to keep a place that has a tenant in it rather than trying to look after a place that boarded up.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, again, just to follow up, and certainly, I'm excited about the opportunity to get a tenant in there. In terms of regardless of what tenant is in there, is the building ready to go? And regardless of who the tenant is, and would the city be? Is there anything else that this, the city would have to do to get it ready if it's not ready to go?
Through Mr. Chair, yeah, really good questions. Yes, we've moved all of our equipment from this facility. It needs some cleanup and some freshening, but it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money on it till we know how it's going to be utilized. We don't have any money in our budget set up for any type of repair at the moment, and that would be something that would have to be negotiated as part of any lease. It's not to say that we wouldn't have some type of financial commitment, possibly to the roof and structure and HVAC. But if it needs lighting or heat or a turf to put down those are things that we would typically look to the lessor to contribute towards.
Thank you.
Or any other questions? Actually, I just kind of want to follow up with right upon Peter's point there. If like you were saying with a turf facility, anything of that nature, would the city look into doing another assessment of the building, because it's been almost 10 years since the previous assessment and there hasn't been ice in the building for 3 years now, just to see what sort of movements taken place with the building, if it's in any different shape than it was 10 years prior to today?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Good question. I suppose we could look at an update on the recommendations that were made back a number of years ago. I can say that my staff has been operating out of there for the last year or two. And other than the fact that it's uninsulated and very cold in the wintertime, we haven't really noticed any, at least I'm not aware of any structural deficiencies like holes in the roof or any settlements. But it is an old structure that's perched on the side of a hill that has had a history of structural damage, and but that's not to say that with a little bit of stabilization, it could perform a purpose in the short term. The question is what cost. I think we'd have to do. I think the easy answer is let's find out what the group moving into it wants to use it for, and then we can decide whether that includes a structural assessment. That's probably something that the municipality is responsible for anyways through its asset management plan. And if that's part of the project, then we'll make sure that it's safe and sound.
And thank you. And just further expanding on that, would this be open to any sort of grants from the, say, provincial government, federal government? Because if it's something that I know there's different places within the city where they have new development that gets certain grants for amenities that they don't have, that they need to provide to that newer population in the city. Is this something that would, if the right user group was there, is that somewhere you could get funds from, or is?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's an opportunity we haven't pursued yet. It depends on the nature of the group moving in. If they're a nonprofit organization, they may have access to grants that municipalities may not. There are a number of grant programs that offered by the province and the feds that would help municipalities, particularly small municipalities, bolster their some of the condition of their facilities, and this might be one that's a good candidate. Recently, we received a grant to restore and renovate Fire Station 1 when the fire department moves out of there. So no doubt about it, there is money out there. It's just a matter of deciding how we're going to use it and how much we would require.
And those grants are only available if the building is still existing, or are they available if the building, say, is decommissioned, demolished, and removed, and a new facility is put in place?
Through Mr. Chair, yeah, a lot of the initiatives now are focused more on energy conservation. So I think we can make a pretty good case about saving a considerable amount of energy if we were to put in, proper insulation and proper heating and that type of thing. But again, we need to know really how we want to use it before we decide how and how much money we need to fix it up and what the scope of that project might be.
Okay, and just the last part to this. I know it's a lot. I'm kind of seeing this document for the first time. I'm just sort of just saying some of the things. But if we approached any of our internal user groups within the municipality, like with Thorold Soccer, or Thorold Hockey, or Thorold Baseball, have any of these groups been approached to say, hey, here's your one chance. Do you want this chance? Have you heard any feedback from any of those groups?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, we've had some conversations with some of the user groups, but as part of this process, when it's rolled out, we'll make sure that we send out a copy of the EOI to all of our user groups and anyone who has spoken to us in the last number of months who has expressed an interest. So everyone will know that it's there. We'll be putting it on our website and providing some information on our social media platform.
All right, thank you. I see Peter, you're first in line with your hand.
Thanks. Through you, Chair. And maybe I'll open this up to either counselor that's on the call as well. I just want to be sure that the city has absolutely ruled out a sale of this property.
From my point of view, we haven't entertained a sale of the property, but nothing was off the table. Like there was talk of, potential affordable housing. Like it's been a whole, I think I said this before, it's been a whole laundry list of things that could go there. Nothing has been ruled out, but that I know of, we haven't entertained selling it yet.
There's for sure value in that space though.
Right.
Yeah, everything. I'm not saying it hasn't been out there and talked about, but it hasn't been, we haven't formally gone out and said, well, let's sell it or look into selling it, that I know of anyways, Jeff.
No, the only thing that, it might show up would be some type of partnership or agreement for a portion of the space. It's once the building is demolished, because I really don't know that it makes sense to put a lot of money into, rebuilding it. It's a fresh canvas for us. And I really think it would be an opportunity for us to think quite a distance down the road about, what the potential uses could be. We have, social issues like needs for warming and cooling stations. We talked about affordable housing. Our parks, Trails and Recreation Master Plan talks about the need for additional dry floor space. Even the library, which is struggling now to get funding for, its expansion, it might be a good location there. And I know that from experience working out of City Hall for the last little while, we're starting to fill up a little bit there too. And, maybe a downtown location might be something council would want to consider for a new City Hall or at least council chambers.
Yeah, and just as if I can, one last point. So two things. Number one, do we know if there was a demolition? Not that this is probably our maybe not our purview, but it would be good if they knew what the cost was, because if we put a tenant in there, like this is really short term, right? We're thinking about 5 years because the building's approaching 90 years of age. Like you say, I mean, there's no value in putting money in it, but perhaps we need to put this out there, like you say, and see who does express interest. And if nothing really comes about, maybe we think a little bit, what's it going to be like in 10 years, and what can we really use this space for? Housing may be one of those great initiatives. It's 3.75 acres. I guess I just want to make sure that whoever goes in there, they know that if I could frame it in terms of it's a medium term, short to medium term lease. I just think we need to be open and honest with whoever goes in there. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Do you have any response, Jeff, or do we want me to move on to, I see Joe, you have your hand up as well.
What I was going to ask was covered by quite a bit of that. I'm looking at number 9 on specific amenities or modifications you anticipate needing within the facility to accommodate your proposed use. And I was going to ask whether removing the existing structure would be, in staff's opinion, a legitimate thing to put in that. But I think that has been answered to a certain extent. As a slight aside, when I was on city council back in the late 90s, we considered decommissioning it.
Okay. Anyone else have any further questions? Or does everybody want to take a little bit of time to read the entire document? Sounds like we all want to do a little more reading on that one as well. Thank you, Jeff, for your time there.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to our next bit of business here, which is item 7.2, which is park updates. I believe this was brought forward by committee member Woods, but I don't see him online at the moment. Justin, can you maybe expand on this with the park updates?
Yeah, so not much. It was like you said, Ian added this. It was discussion around basketball nets and just general upgrades to the park. But unfortunately, for more info on that, it would probably have to come to Ian. But we can wait till the next meeting unless anyone else has something to add about it.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like with all the new parks going in, there is kind of I don't think the city does the city have a park with a basketball net, or are those all just schools? I feel like they're all just the schools. I don't think we maintain anything like that, do we? Dave, I see you with your hand up. Thank you.
Hi, thank you to you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we have basketball nets at South Confederation Park. We have
Right.
Port Robinson Park has basketball court, 2 nets either end. Martin Street Park, Village in Marlatz has a basketball court. Trying to think of the others just off the top of my head.
Winterberry.
Winterberry Park
Winterberry,
has courts. Thank you, Marcia. So we do have locations throughout the city that have basketball courts. In 2020, the city went through, replaced all the backboards, all the rims or the hoops, repainted all the courts, freshened up all the court lines, the half court, I think we call it the horseshoe. I'm not a basketball player.
The 3-point line.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure what they are, but yeah, so we do have a number spread throughout the city currently that have been updated within the last 2 or 3 years. So,
okay. Peter, is your hand still up from previous? Okay, I see it just lowered. Thank you. Okay. Well, we'll leave it as. Is there any other questions to any further park upgrades at the moment? Okay. Item 7.3, opening date for pool and splash pads. I know last year as a committee, we went through and we lobbied to get this opened early, and we did it just in time, and it did open. I guess the question would be, I see Dave with your hand up there. Is that previous or is that new?
that's new through you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you.
We're in the current process of a tender to paint the pool. It closes actually this Thursday, April the 11th. The tender will close. We had a mandatory site meeting April the 5th, met some contractors on site at the pool. We're looking to bring review and award the tender during the April 16th council meeting. So we have a tight timeline for the contractor to have this work done. We've given the flexible deadline for May the 31st of this year. When I say a flexible timeline or a flexible deadline, just with some weather, the weather conditions. I mean, we need a 7-day cure time for the paint. So we're looking at the earliest possible June 17th. Some of the problem with that, we face the challenges are a lot of our lifeguards, a lot of our deck staff are high school students, so they're not available during the week. Like, they're still in school as well. So some of them are university students, but a lot of them are high school students as well. So that's one of the major challenges we face with getting our pool opened earlier. If I notice anything major is happening, I'll have all our splash pads throughout the city opened, inspected, clear to use for June the 1st if we have an extremely warm summer. So just because we have that pool painting, the tender is opened, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature. So fingers crossed we can push that June 17th opening date. We'll see how the weather plays.
Okay. So I guess that kind of mutes my final point with the pools and the splash pads. One thing I see in other municipalities, schools and their pool uses with lessons and recreational swims for classes and whatnot, and what it would take to have the city sort of coordinate with the school board, whether it's Richmond Street School right next door, which is a great opportunity for the kids. Like, you're teaching swimming, you're teaching it, and again, I understand there's a shortage of lifeguards at that point in time while they're still in school, and with the pool being painted, it just it sort of mutes the whole point. But in future years, I feel like it would be, or even in September when it's still, I mean, I don't know how many kids go back to school, how many lifeguards you still have on staff. I guess it's always at the mercy of the employee as well. So, I guess there's not really much to add to that, but just, it would be nice to see. I know when I was a kid, I think it was West Park School, they'd always send us down there for our swim lessons during school time. But okay, I guess I can leave it at that, because if the pool's being painted, by the time school gets out, the pool wouldn't even be open by then. Okay. Is there any other questions for this? All right, seeing none. I'll open up to our roundtable discussion for item 8. Is there any items for the roundtable? Anyone? Yes, Joe. You're muted, Joe.
Sorry about that. I just inherited a cat and it keeps coming and meowing loudly beside me, so I keep. Anyway, on Friday we had I was at a meeting of the environment meeting, and there was a presentation by the Lake Gibson Committee to the effect that we were planning on going ahead to try to get the mapping and whatnot done. Now, Fred Neal is hoping to do a formal presentation in front of this committee. Possibly, it's I don't know what his time frame is, but possibly as early as next meeting. But the point is that that committee supported the idea of turning the Lake Gibson corridor into some sort of a park and conservation area of some sort. Okay, that still has to be decided exactly what it is. I'd like you to keep in mind that there are at least 3, and depending how you want to count, 4 or 5 parks within that area. The reason I put it like that is there are 3 actual parks, including the one down in Ellenburg. Then you've got the Frog Pond, but you also have the dog park that's going in there. So the point is that we've come to realize that there's an awful lot of overlap. between the Lake Gibson people and a number of other committees. And at some point, we're going to ask you to support the idea of going ahead with the mapping. Now, to the councillors, I just want to mention this because I don't know exactly when the Environment Committee report is going to arrive, but the staff time that we're asking for to do the initial mapping, depending on your point of view, actually saves the city money, because it would come out of the $150,000 grant that we've already got, the staff time that we'd be using for that. So that's money that doesn't, as long as nobody gets double billed, that would actually save the city a dollar or two. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Any other roundtable discussions? I actually have one question for, I believe, Dave or Jeff. I'm not too sure who this fall under. Where the tennis courts at Clancy. Who owns that portion of the property there on the corner? So
Sorry
Justin,
about my lighting here.
sorry.
You're asking about the piece on the corner of
Yeah, where
Collier?
the tennis courts used to be there, Collier
Tennis
and
courts.
Sullivan.
Yes, it's owned by the Niagara Catholic School Board. And we've met with them recently to talk about some type of a feature there that would be more like a welcome feature to the community, a gateway, if you will. And we're working with the school board to develop a concept plan there. They were talking about maybe some community gardens. I know that we had a bit of a push there a couple of years back, but we just kind of ran out of gas before COVID. But some type of garden, a peace garden was another suggestion, a clock tower, some type of entrance feature that might formalize the use of that space, which has been kind of left unplanned at the moment. But it's really under the control of the school board, and but they've said that they're willing to work with willing partners to make something special there.
Okay, I only asked a question because our Thorold soccer, we've been practicing at the gym, and it was really nice out on Sunday when we were there, and we just went over there and we had the kids there practicing out in the field there, because it was, again, the ground's a bit higher, it's above the grade of the pavement, so it's not as wet, where if you go down into the field, in the soccer field, it was still like really mucky and muddy. But yeah, and there was someone playing tennis up against the wall, and there's people around the park there in the area, and it just dawned on me, like, who owns this? Like, because I mean, and then the next group after us used it for their soccer practice. The next group after them used it for their soccer practice. So it was just one of these things that we found an open piece of grass, and everyone thought it was the best idea that we've had in a little while. But thanks for the clarification. I wasn't sure who was the owner or operator of that parcel of land. It was just a small little corner there. Thank you. Anyone else? Roundtable discussion. Yes, Joe, was your hand still up? New one? You're still muted though.
No, not still, muted again.
Okay.
I was just wondering, Mr. Chair, have you received any more information on how your soccer or whoever would be using DSBN property? Have you gotten any feedback on that at all? Or any clarification as to how it's done?
I'm not too sure. Can you refresh my mind here? I've got lots going on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Last meeting you were mentioning something to the effect of just wondering how we would go about using various fields, like the turf, for example, but
Yep.
also any other field, Richmond Street, whatever. Because I have found out what you have to do it. So
Okay. No, nothing. We have Our Lady of Holy Rosary, the Clancy. We have their gym booked every Sunday from 4 till 8:30 at night.
Mhm.
Other than that, we only have access to like Sea Grow. Once the fields are open, obviously Sea Grow, South Confed. But yeah, is there something that we need to do as Thorold Soccer as an organization, or is it something?
Okay, Mr. Chair, basically all you have to do, as long as you're an actual organization, and I think this goes down to an individual team level. You just contact the DSBN, just phone them. They're even open
Yep.
on during the summertime. There's a master schedule of people that have scheduled to use it, and it's free of charge, although they're assuming that you are covered by some kind of insurance.
Right. Yeah, that's what we have going on with our agreement right now with
Yeah, okay.
the Catholic School Board.
Yeah, it's the same with the public school board.
Okay.
I found that out while having a glass of wine with the secretary and her husband.
No, it's good to know because we actually just stumbled upon another opportunity for us as a soccer club as well. Well, one of our coaches, actually the counselor for city, he was at a coaching training session, and one of the coaches from Pelham were there, and the coach from Pelham invited us out to have exhibition games with them on Monday at E.L. Crosley. So we kind of just stumbled upon a turf field just to we'll have access to hopefully in the next coming week or two, and get the kids ready for the season starting at after the May 2-4 weekend. So it was kind of a nice surprise. We definitely have a use case for that. Yeah, so it was great. Councillor Didavias.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. When you're talking about turf field, the Thorold High School wants to use the lower level to actually maybe put a turf field in there. Is that something we could support or talk to Janice about working together to bring into the city?
So, I mean, obviously is that directed to Jeff, or is that directed just to anyone as just a discussion?
Anyone.
So I've actually been in the discussion here with Gene Citrigno at Thorold Soccer, and we've actually identified maybe Hutt Park as a possible area. Like with my nature of work and what I do, I was able to come up with a quick concept of what that could entail in Hutt Park. I'm not sure how many people understand how big Hutt Park is. It is a very big field. I did a little concept draft because council did approve, I think it was $100,000 or something for the draft for the use case. I believe that was within the last budget. But we can fit a full-size field, 8-lane running track, and a 100-car park lot in that Hutt Park.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got it on my file. I can send it over to you. I think I'll send it over to you just for a quick look at some point.
Yeah. And could we still help Thorold High somehow, our committee to in that lower level to try to work with her to get that field for the students and for the city, for the residents to use it as a soccer practice facility too?
Yeah, so one of the things, like, because going back a couple of years ago, I also did another little study for that area because I like doing these little studies. I had the
lower level, only the lower level.
Yeah, just the lower level. So I do a lot of these little things around the city, like just for my own entertainment, my own enjoyment, just to see what we have and what we could have. And I also did a study. I did the same footprint of the field and the running track within that lower area. It would obviously you would have to. There's one or two properties I think are encroaching into that park. Another is a really big drop off at the closest to St. David's Road, but nothing a retaining wall can't fix. Like, I mean, you can do some soil stabilization, you can add a soldier pile wall, you could do. There's a lot of ways you could do that to stabilize the soil in that area, but it comes down to the lighting in outfield. The lighting posts in the outfield for the baseball diamond would be encroaching into portions of the running track. So it depends on what extent you want to go to with the size of a 6-lane running track, a 4-lane, an 8-lane. I've just been taking the actual footprint of what they've been using at what currently exists at Sir Winston Churchill.
Okay, I think she was thinking just a smaller version, just the field, no
No running track.
running track.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then there's absolutely there's enough room for it there.
Yeah, because we could work with our teams, our sports teams can use that
Yep.
turf field, and we can help out the high school the same way. So I thought maybe if our group can work with Thorold High, just help her get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
Is there
It depends.
something-
I guess. Yeah. It all depends on the situation, right? Is it a lease or is it a sale? I think that was kind of
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was the cut point with
Yeah.
McMillan Park, was that we're just not willing to sell our assets
Oh,
for it.
yeah, I know. I just thought maybe we can support her and get in contact with her and see what she's doing.
Sure.
and
Do
s-
we know who is taking on the design? I know there was money put aside in the budget for the design of the turf field, or at least a study to be done of where
I have
to
no, I
locate
have no
this.
idea. I have no idea about that. I was just
Okay.
talking with Janice about the lower level. That's all my concern was.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but definitely a turf field
Yeah.
would definitely fit in there minus a running track. Yeah. I think you may have to remove portion of the splash pad, but
Yeah. Okay, that's all I thought. Thanks.
thank you. Bob.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention something about Hut Park. I don't know how many people on this committee are old enough to remember. Joe might, but there was a bit of a war fought over that, about parking in Hut Park.
Yep.
And
Oh,
they went-
yeah, it was fun back then.
And the people who live around that park actually, I believe, won, because there's no parking in that park anymore. Even though the entrance is there, it was closed down. So that being said, I don't know how the statute of limitations are on things like that. So opening up that park to something like that would be, I think, you have to really look into it. We don't want another frog pond on our hands here. That's
Understood.
all I'm saying. Just letting you know.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the discussions we had. Like, Gene, he's like, I don't know, because there was a pretty big the uproar of the people in the neighborhood not wanting that many people in their park, I guess. I don't know. I don't exactly know, but
I think it had something to do with where the parking was going to be situated behind people's properties. And the properties that would have been on, I believe it's McDonough. People fought that. I don't want to mention the people who lived there, but that was years ago. But anyways, they won their battle, and that's why there's no parking in that park now.
Okay. It's a very big park.
Oh, I
and
know
the
it
use
is.
ca- and anyone I've talked to, that actually a couple of the guys that are on the soccer club, the coaches we were talking that live in the area, say the park's empty. I mean, that they go through there, there's really not much other than it just being a big open grass field. So at the end of the day, if we have 8 fields painted on CE Gross. I mean, like,
Plus the fact that, okay, there was at one time, I believe, soccer nets there. And
yes,
a
there's
baseball
still, I think
backstop.
there still is a few soccer nets there. Because I remember Councillor Wood saying he was hosting soccer practices there, I believe last year at some point.
I don't quite remember myself. I live around the corner, but I don't go through there too often.
Okay.
So, but I know that you might have some opposition.
Right. Now, there's opposition to everything. But I see, Joe, you have your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I can't help but make a slightly facetious statement. Not that I have any hard feelings against back when I was running and got involved with the Hut Park thing, but I think that'd be a heck of a place to put that baseball team that we were talking about a
The
meeting or
park
two
is
ago.
huge. All right, Councillor Sentence, I see you with your hand.
Yeah, just a few things. Just in my opinion, we used to. My daughter used to practice at Hut Park for soccer, but I know we're looking into the lower part of McMillan Park. We're looking into it as turfing that because it helps Thorold High, and our problem for Thorold High and our user groups. So I know we're looking into that, but we still have to figure out. I think we left it with staff. Maybe Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've left that looking into the different possibilities of where it could go. But for me, if that bottom part can be used, that would be the perfect spot to put our money into and still kind of control for our user groups as well. So I'm hoping something comes of that from my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, further onto that, I believe this would be towards Jeff. Our engineering, we have an engineering department within the city of Thorold. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Sure.
So is our engineering department capable of doing these studies? Since like we've already have people employed, they have the software, they have the system, they have the knowledge. Isn't this somewhere where we could say, hey, here's a footprint of a soccer field. Can you take a snippet of Google Earth and then we can go paint our lines or put our turf down instead of spending money on third parties to come in and do all this work for us?
Yes, great comment, Mr. Chair. I'd love to be able to say, yes, we're fully staffed and have all the capabilities to do, a detailed design and at least a Class B cost estimate before we start to move ahead. I think the way that we're going to approach this particular project is we're going to take the mapping that we currently have and take the model, I think, from the Kiwanis Park in St. Catharines and find out which parcels of land could potentially sustain or at least accommodate a track and a turf field. And that would give us a short list of probably 3 or 4 properties in the city. And then we can decide through some type of decision criteria that perhaps this committee develops as to which one we want to spend any money on doing the detailed design. Because if there are some issues with respect to parking or drainage or soil conditions or impacts from lighting or that type of thing, we're going to want to vet those first before we get too far down that road. And so right now we're probably about 6 to 8 weeks away from coming back to council with a short list of candidate sites. Once we get to that point, we can start to move ahead with the detailed design. Hopefully in time, we'll get a construction budget figure ready for our next round of budget.
And so that is all being done within in-house. Like we're actively doing that within the city of Thorold staff.
The first part of it, which is the short list of locations, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was perfect. That was, you answered my question. Thank you. Ken, I see you with your Mr. Sentence. Got your hand up. Nope. All right. Peter, I see you with your hand up.
Yeah, and maybe through you, Mr. Chair, for Jeff or Dave on the line regarding, I want to just jump back to the James White building. Is the plumbing in that building and in all the dressing rooms, and I think there's 4 dressing rooms in that building, is the plumbing working? Like, is that all intact? And does the facility, in other words, I just kind of, just in case what is going on out there, is the facility, can it be, like I say, is it ready to go? And I wasn't clear on that. And like, I'm just interested, does the plumbing all work in that building?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have 4 dressing rooms, all full features, toilets, showers, everything's working, everything's plumbed the way it should. Absolutely.
And the more the more I think about this building, I think it's a bit of a we just got to figure out what to do with it. I think it's a bit of a jewel, actually. But Canada Games Park was designed to alleviate some of our pressures, right? Because we're allowed to use 25% of the gym there and stuff like that, I believe, in Thorold. My thing with this, has the city sort of reached out to Brock reached out to, institutions like that, maybe even Niagara College, to see if they would be interested in the facility. And maybe there's even some, instead of them necessarily paying, maybe we can do it in exchange in kind for future services with one of these universities or things like that, if we don't have any other expression of interest. So I guess, so my question is, are we just waiting? Are we inviting any groups to express interest, or are we just waiting to see what we get?
Thanks, Peter. That's directed to Jeff?
Sorry, yeah. Jeff,
Yeah,
or counselors, or whoever might know the answer. But yeah, it's open. It's just roundtable, right? So I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Go for it. No.
Yeah, if I can go first, Mr. Chair. So yeah, we are looking at optimizing the use of Canada Games Park. There is some space that's available there. There's also some space that's subject to some lease agreement negotiations that are ongoing. So it's hard to really quantify who's going to be in there next. But one of the directives that staff got from City Council was to continue to look at filling up all our available spaces and optimizing that, not just maximizing, but optimizing the opportunity to offset some of the revenue or some of the expenses that we're taking on as a owner of that facility. And there, because Brock and St. Catharines are also trying to do the same, we want to try and balance financial obligations of maximizing revenues there with availability and access for the local community. So the City Council this year has made a point of actually purchasing space for the purposes of a walking track. But we've also had some pretty good conversations in cooperation with St. Catharines and our operator to start to implement public skating, tiny tots, stick and puck, some of those things that we offer during the course of the day that might get a better response, even better response up at Canada Games Park. So work in progress, and as people become more familiar about that space and how they want to use it, we'll continue to create opportunity for them there. But at the moment, our operator needs some assistance reaching out to the community groups and helping us promote and market that space.
Right, thank you. I guess to add on to Peter, are you okay? Yeah, okay. Just to add on to that point with the usage of Canada Games Park, I know they just took the ice out and now it's been they do the lacrosse there. It is a turf facility. Do we have access to that facility as our user groups? Like, are we still paying for the use of the arenas there in their off season as a turf facility?
I'm no expert, but it's my understanding that's the deal that they cut when we signed up.
I'm because we
but I don't know.
Haven't for well, that's the question, because it just just some things jog your memory, and it's maybe we already have a indoor turf facility that we don't know about.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the turf field has been put down for the lacrosse group. So St. Catharines Minor Lacrosse, the A's, and I believe the junior B's are also operating out of that facility. They're paying full rent, including the rental of the dressing room space.
So as a city, do we get money? Do we get return on that then? Is that how that works? We just don't get to use the space. We just get the money that they're putting forward for it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mr. Chair. The fact that we're generating revenue means that we're not paying for it. So it's offsetting our operating cost. So that's really the balance. So for example, like we were trying to arrange if we had a little bit more time, and those who maybe sit on the environment committee would be aware of this. We're planning an Earth Day event. We'd like to host something there, and we could have, had we had enough time, rented that space for a day to host events. There happens to be a volleyball tournament on that day, but it's still a space that could have been used for, you know, something like what we were planning for Earth Day. And it's just really a matter of coordinating our own end of the game, I guess, our own end of the deal. How much of this space do we want to use? And how much of it do we want to leave it in the hands of the operator to sell?
Yeah, and I mean the A's and the junior B's, they're gonna fully utilize that facility for the whole summer. So go ahead. I see Councillor De Vitis with his hand there.
Oh, I was through you, Mr. Chair, when Pete was talking about the James White Arena, there was a group that was talking to me, and they're still interested in putting a turf field in that arena. But with the 5 years, a short window span, I'm not sure if they're still interested, but I was just to give you guys a heads up. There is a group that's interested in the James White Arena to put a turf field in for a soccer facility for training.
Is there any other roundtable items or discussions? Okay, if there's no further questions, our next meeting will be held on May 6th, 2024. And being there's no further business, I will call the meeting adjourned at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everybody.